Oh my gosh, this is take three. Hello, ladies, manifesting circle, you amazing soulful women. It is Trudy here. I am waiting for Olga to come and join the live. I'll just let her know I'm live. Waiting, waiting, waiting. If you've missed the excitement so far, I was half an hour early and then got ready to do live just then, had somehow added a filter, and now
Now,
Olga is
Olga is
joining. Yay! We got it!
okay, all right. Let's make sure that we are proportional because I'm like that big and you like that small.
Well, on my
On my
screen, we're
screen,
side
we're
by
side by
side,
side,
so we're good.
so we're good.
Hopefully, I'm not too
Hopefully, I'm not
loud.
too loud. Can you hear me, Trudy?
I can
I
just hear
can just
you. I'm
hear
going to
you. I'm going
turn
to turn
my volume
my
down.
volume down.
Do you have a
Do you
headset?
have a headset? I wasn't planning on using one. Is that
Because I
something that
can
I
barely
can
hear
barely
you.
hear you? Okay, let me go grab one. Hang on a second.
Or you'll have to
Or you
talk
have to talk
louder.
louder.
Hi,
Hi,
darling. Just give us a
darling. Just give us a
moment.
moment.
Um,
Um,
Olga's going to get
Olga's going
her
to get her
earphones.
earphones.
So if you've missed this
If you've
morning's
missed this morning's
excitement, I was
excitement,
half an
I was
hour
half an hour
early, thought
early.
Olga was
Thought Olga
late,
was
started to interview myself. I've posted the video on my personal profile if you want to giggle. I went for 5 minutes on my own. I'm not shy. And then the second live went live and then had a butterfly filter on my head, which was playing this Spanish
I was
music, which I
hoping
didn't
those
know
would
if
be
you could hear.
unicorns. I was like, why does she have butterflies? Those are supposed to be unicorns,
Total accident. And now we're here. All right. So, Olga, we
Yeah.
can hear you. Thank you
Is
for
it better?
agreeing to interview me today.
Oh, I'm so
Let's
excited.
get
So
into
can
it,
you hear
shall
me all
we?
right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. Alrighty, well, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for starting Trudy. I am actually the one who interviewing her today. It's a great pleasure and privilege. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me,
You.
Trudy. And before we get started, huge thanks to Miriam and this wonderful space for hosting us all and giving us an opportunity to spread our message and to spread the love
Oh,
and
yes.
share, this with more women. So
All
very
about the
excited.
love.
There you go. All righty, ladies. Now, if you do not know legendary Trudy Pavlovsky, then
Legendary.
you are in for a treat. So a quick bio about Trudy, please. So she, back in 2008, was at the pinnacle of her retail career. I didn't even know that.
National
Having worked
sales
her way up
manager.
to the top, after getting to the top, she realized she actually does not like the view, and she changed a direction. Trudy Sparkle Pawlowski is a quirky, creative woman on a mission to support women in business, to share the message and skills to go on the way is genuine, connected, and unique. Trudy works with women to show them how to love their imposter voice. Excited to hear more about that. Understand how their body, emotions, and energy hinders or helps the growth and uses the realignment of shadow values. Really excited to talk about that. To
Yep.
bring true, authentic personal power for in creating of a dream life. And who wouldn't want that?
I don't know anyone who doesn't. I've never had anyone say, Trudy, take the dream life and jam it where the sun don't shine. I don't want it. So,
Yeah,
not to say there's not
fantastic.
people out there, but,
Yes, 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 yes. Alrighty, so actually, I'm really curious about the change in your direction because you and I we go back like
we
what 3,
do.
4 years ago, right? Quite a bit. We were hanging out with Stash back then, and all what I could see is that, right? So it was a lot of unicorns.
Lots of
Uh,
unicorns. There's
right,
always going to be
right.
unicorns. There's always going to be
It's always going to
magic.
be the unicorns, right? And of course, be yourself, and unless you can be a unicorn, and then be a unicorn.
Yep,
This is the great truth of life.
pretty
So
much.
let's jump right in. There you go. Yes, that one. I totally stole it from you. The second that I saw it on Facebook, I was like, I'm going to have to go and get one myself. So I
Yep.
have one on the office too, and I think about you every day, every time I look at it.
Branding,
All righty,
baby.
guys. So my first question is, of course, has to do with the change that you had, in your business. And what I wanted to ask you is, because last time I was following you, you were teaching courses and running business and courses creation, all of the good stuff, masterminds, right?
Yep, the
And now
squad.
working more of what I'm hearing is helping women in their personal power, personal development, and something that you call imposter voice and shadow values. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Okay, so I don't know if people know, I've been in business for 10 years now. And originally, almost 10 years ago, I actually decided that I wanted to work empowering women and coaching women. But then you meet people and things happen, and I spent 5 years working with youth and teenagers and all of that stuff, and experiential games and creating programs and stuff, which is where I learned all the skills for creating courses and setting up live events and doing all of that and all the education behind it. But it wasn't my calling. It was always the zone of excellence. And so then that evolved into masterminds. But I realized just over a year ago now that while I was good at it, it wasn't my purpose. It wasn't this driving force. And everything that I did always went back. It always started with the mind. What's going on in here? How are you feeling? My background with mental health issues and depression and stuff, like it always went back to that. And so while everyone was telling me, you know, just keep doing what you're doing, you've got to be consistent. If you keep working this thing, you'll get great results, blah, blah, blah. I was just like, no, this is not what I want to do. So some of you might have seen the great emotional upheaval, some may call it the hissy fit of last year, of just leaving all of the groups, walking away, throwing myself out into the wilderness.
Where's Trudy? I was looking for you.
Yeah, and going, what I need to find within myself, I'm not going to find in the groups, listening to a chorus of voices telling me what I should do. So I went out there, found a new coach, sort of new spaces, and really went within and just thought, you know what? I've always loved the shadow values work. I've always gone back to mindset. I've always worked with women on shifting that belief around, I can't do this, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. It's always been the core of what I do, whether women, men with depression, teenagers, like, so I just went, you know what? It might be a little bit confusing for people. It might make people think I'm a little flaky because I'm chopping and changing. But the reason I was chopping and changing was because it just wasn't what I wanted. I just wasn't fulfilled, and I couldn't settle for a life of just doing something because I was good at it. And so that was the big transformation. It saw me basically burn down the business and start again. So it's been an amazing year. And, you know, I say I'm the living embodiment of my work because I've deep dived into all of the shadows. I've learnt to love my imposter voice, and I've worked through all of that. And now I've got an agent, I'm back modeling, I'm getting extra work, I'm coaching programs and work that I absolutely love. I've dropped 12.5 kilos. I'm the fittest mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally that I've ever been in my life because I followed my bliss.
Yeah.
And that's what I love helping women do now. So I'm no longer a business strategist. I can help you with that. But I am a life coach, and I'm fully owning that. I'm a performer. I am a speaker. I am a creative, and I am here to help you get that for you. That felt so good saying that.
I know! You're like totally in your zone of genius. Speaking of zone of genius, as you were talking about all of this, that's all I could think about, right? Gay Hendricks and Big Leap and Zone of Genius. And what he talks about is this very dynamic that you were experiencing, going essentially from what was your zone of excellence, right? You are darn good at business, and you can still help women with that, into something that was your true calling and what sounds like a deeper life purpose.
Yep.
Yeah. And another thing that I'm noticing more and more in this business space, because I've been, you know, around for 6-7 years, I'm not a newbie, but what I'm seeing is people who are extraordinarily successful are the ones who are not afraid to change and to shift. And I was thinking about Denise Duffel-Thomas, who used to be a green smoothie for like a brides specialist. And she said, you know what, I'm just going to talk about money. And she sent him an email to her. He said, yeah, I'm changing.
Yep.
So yes,
you got to own it and work it, baby.
Amazing. Yes, ma'am. So tell us a little bit about what does term shadow values actually mean? Because I'm not quite familiar. I can guess kind of what it is, but I'm very curious to hear what it is. What does it smell like? What does it look like? What do you eat with? And I guess most importantly, how do you embrace it? Is that even the right question?
Yep, perfect. That's why my program's called Embrace. You couldn't have used a better word. So values, like, just to get really clear, values are universal. You can take a value to any country, any language, say what the value is, and everyone will have a very generalized understanding of what that value is. Now, most people love, they'll say, I'm respect, trust, honesty, these values are really important. Now, they're golden values. So they're the values that nobody has any shame, fear, guilt, or judgment wrapped around.
General, right?
Yeah. But these are nice values to have. Yeah. But I work with the shadow values because everything has a polarity. Everything, there's light and dark. You've got to have the contrast and everything to be able to really get the full experience. I first learned about shadow values 5 years ago. And they're values like, so basically a shadow value is something that, and especially for women, we have taught to be ashamed about, have fear around, judgment, guilt. They're the values that you're not comfortable saying that you have, and because you don't own and embody these values, you lose so much of your own personal power. So the values that I work with are attention, rebelliousness, and rebelliousness is so one of my values. I love it. Belonging, control, superiority. I've got them here to make sure I don't miss them. Validation, money, authority, and ambition. Now, everyone who's like either watching the replay or watching live now, I want you to think attention, right? As little girls, what does attention actually mean to you? Growing up as a teenager and as a young woman, how negative can attention actually feel? Because as little girls, we're told to sit down, be quiet, shut up, play nice. So I love attention. Like, you can tell, right? Because I've embodied it. I've removed all the fear, shame, guilt, or judgment. Thanks, Darlene. I've removed all the shame, fear, guilt, and judgment around it. I love attention. I will go out. I will seek attention because that's an important value to me. But most of us with these shadow values, we're told, authority. Authority feels heavy. It's like the police standing over you, like bossing you. But when you step up and become an authority in your field and own your knowledge and your voice, this is how we change the world, ladies. By taking these values, taking them out of the shadow, embracing them and going, hell yeah, I love money. Sexuality, one of my favorite modules to work through. Who hasn't been raised as a woman with shame around sexuality? Yeah, right. So
totally.
The real power behind shadow values that I think I really want people to understand, whether you work with me or somebody else on it, is that the top 1% of the world, of the top 1% of achievers, have embodied all of these values. They have no shame, fear, guilt, or judgment around anything that they do in their life. They feel good about it. They go for what they want. And if you wrap your goals around these shadow values, you are more internally inspired to go after what you want than a golden value. So you can say, respect is really nice. By taking action in this goal, how am I going to get respect? Yeah. But if you say something like attention, if I set this goal, how can I set this goal to create that I get attention? Like, it's just juicy. I know not everyone likes that word, but yeah. So these values have transformed my life over the last 12 months, especially. And that's why I work with them now. Does that make sense? Sorry, I get a little bit passionate about this and sometimes get a little
this is really
ranty.
Great. And this is a really fascinating conversation because as you were talking about it, it was hitting me really hard that is the core, right? You have to start with this. Like, don't even work on your business or your relationships or your marriage or whatever if you cannot embrace who you are, and
You.
if you cannot, absolutely, if you cannot deal with this not good enough syndrome or imposter syndrome or whatever, it's just like you're gonna spill it everywhere you go. Like, seriously, right?
It's just going
Start
to be
there.
push, push, push. And that's where,
Right.
you know, for so many years in business, everything just felt like push and hard work, and I wasn't honoring myself. And it was just like, and I was seeing it all around me. And now, like, you may have noticed, I've also had quite a huge spiritual awakening as well. And if you take your understanding of spiritual law, take your understanding of shadow values and all of your emotional stuff, you then wrap that around how your physiology, how your nervous system and your cellular body works, and then you tie that in with learning to love your imposter voice, you become invincible. I feel invincible. I'm
This is
just like,
fascinating.
I'm going to go for this thing. And then if you don't get it, you go, okay, cool, there's something better that's coming along. Like, I just don't feel disappointed about anything anymore. It's weird.
Yeah.
I used to be the most negative Nancy in the world. So, yeah.
I think the attention is the one that really caught my attention, pun intended.
Well, that's the first one I work with on people.
Right, right. Because I have lately came to discover, shame on you for somebody who's a relationship coach, that my love language is actually a touch. And I hate my love language because it feels like I'm asking for attention, and I'm asking, like, I'm like being needy and stuff. And so I think for me, like, as you like even help me understand what those things are, that would be that. Like, attention is one of my, this touchy kind of like, I want it, but I don't want it. I'm too scared of it. I'm embarrassed of it, right?
Yeah.
And
So
so it's
look where
like,
back in your past where you've been punished for asking for attention.
oh yeah,
Right? Go back
totally.
and you're a tapper, so you can go back and tap on that and clear that.
Yeah,
But
it's actually easier than that. It's like I want one of these classic examples of the kids who've been never hugged. you know,
yep,
like my parents actually are very loving people, but hugging and emotional like connection was just not something that like my mom. She really loves me. Dad, he struggled with depression and some other emotional issues. He never been violent or anything, but he also never been like emotionally connected. And I'm literally one of those kids who were not hugged as they were raised. Now, later on, when I grew up and I learned tapping, I talked to my dad and asked him about that. He had a really interesting limiting belief that love is somehow is a very negative thing, and it's like
yep.
deadly. Like if you love someone too much, you actually damage them on some level. I know it's not logical at all, but that's something that we deal with.
Everyone
And
has
it's
their
like
beliefs, right?
right. And as you talking about it, makes me really curious of what kind of things we believe in and that are behind these values that are important to address and communicate and just learn to talk about them, right? Just to say it
Yep.
out loud. So yeah, this is absolutely beautiful. So let me talk to you a little bit about and I know all the things kind of like tied up together. But imposter syndrome, I know that's another term that not everybody familiar with. I know about that a little bit. I learned maybe 3-4 years ago. I came across that term and I researched it. But can you just kind of help us understand what imposter syndrome is and
Yeah.
how I guess you help women or people with that? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So imposter syndrome is it's a collection of feelings that you have around your self-worth, that you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you just fluked the thing, and it's where you totally dismiss any of your skills, talents, any of the work that you've done to get the results that you've created. And Darlene's just said here she's the best hugger now. Go, Darlene. But imposter syndrome, it's quite insidious because half the time you don't even realize how much impact it's actually having on you. And, I worked my way up to a national sales manager role and I felt like a fraud the whole time. I felt like it was just pure fluke. I was in the right place at the right time. It didn't matter that my stores were all making budget. The wages were under control. I had the lowest staff turnover, the lowest sick days. Like my stats were like for an area manager / state manager / top job person, my stats were great.
Yeah.
But all I could think of was like, I don't know enough, I'm not doing enough, I didn't deserve this promotion. And in the end, I self-sabotaged and absolutely destroyed my retail career. I got made redundant from my last two jobs because they wanted me to go because I was burnt out. I was so wrapped up in imposter voice, but I didn't know what it was. I just thought that was just me. And I didn't know that I could fix that until after I left my retail career and I started doing personal development. So if you're sitting there doubting your abilities, like I actually put a post up last week on my business page about how I felt like a fraud even being in business. And it's only been the last year or so since I've really deep dived into this work as well, because I run alongside my clients and we do the work together. That I've realized, I am freaking amazing at what I do and my business and stuff. So you don't have to live with that voice. So if you have that voice where you've got results here and you're still questioning and doubting and telling yourself it's a fluke or, it's still not good enough, like that voice doesn't have to stick around. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Miriam. Miriam had imposter syndrome in her engineering career. But that ties into the shadow values as well, because if you're not fully embodying, your love of attention, your need for control, how you like to feel superior, like your love of money, your sexuality, your rebelliousness, or any of that, you're beating yourself down, you're denying who you are. So that gives the imposter voice the ability to go, okay, well, you're not actually happy, you're not feeling fulfilled, and look at these results, they actually don't really mean anything. So it's a nice cycle you put yourself in.
That makes sense. So I have a question then. So in your opinion, in your experience, would you say that imposter syndrome is just like a limiting belief and not good enough story, something that we need to deal with? Or could it potentially be a sign that something is not aligned and we need to get in alignment? And what I mean by that is for example, like in your career, you started feeling this way. Could that be a function of the fact that you just wasn't where you meant to serve? Or was it just this limiting belief that just kind of sleeps in everywhere, whether it's relationship or career or anything? It just
could
needs
be
to
both.
be released, no matter where it is.
It could be both. It could be either. It could be. So for me, I'll use my retail career as an example. Was that I just thought that that's what that was. Like I really enjoyed my retail career, but I probably wasn't really doing the specific job in that I wanted to do. When I was retail training, when I was building the teams and training the teams and out on the floor and teaching the staff how to sell and do that, that was awesome. When I got up to the national thing where it was all paperwork and P&Ls and, stats and numbers, definitely wasn't in my zone of genius. So I think for most people, it's something starts when we're young and it just builds over time. But I also think that when you really commit to your life and what it is that you want to do, the imposter voice will start to slip away anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Fantastic.
I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Oh, yeah, no, it makes sense.
But I know for some people, sorry to interrupt, but I know for some people, depending on how deep the imposter voice is embedded, it can actually then really need like really deep work. So it depends on where it's triggered from. Like if you've grown up in a traumatic life and it's just been beaten into you, like emotionally, mentally, or physically, that you're not good enough and that you have to continually strive, that's going to need, lots of love and nurturing and attention. If you're doing a job and you feel okay, but it still feels a bit like, it's really not good enough, you can shift as well. So I think it would definitely be, I'd prefer to look at it as an individual sort of basis and assessment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we actually do need more experts like you in this field. I remember back in the old days, I was tapping with a business coach, and she was multiple figure business coach. And she told me that her next step is to go and work with the imposter syndrome specialist. I was like, what's imposter syndrome? And that's how I learned about it. And that's how I learned about it. And so I think that's, something that actually women who are very successful and genuinely happy, they still have that, right? If it's
Look, the
not addressed,
A-type
it's like one
personality
more
who's
going
really,
for more.
really driven to be
Yeah.
successful, we're part of that voice is part of what pushes us, I guess, for some people. Like Darlene said, her voice is quite quiet now because she's really connected into herself and her business, which is awesome. And, some people are probably always going to, have it. But one of the things I teach is learning to love it and work with it and not have your imposter voice as this enemy that you're butting heads with, which is what I see a lot of people who work with it are just like, you have to beat the imposter voice and you have to like take over and you have to be like command. Rah! It's like,
Hashtag sausage strategy.
yeah, what if you learnt to love that voice and recognize that, part of it's your ego. It's probably connected. Well, I work with it, connected in with your inner child, that it's looking to keep you safe and protect you, even though it's, potentially not. But what happens if you learn to love it? You love that voice and you love the warnings and you love the things that it's highlighting. It's highlighting those shadow values that aren't being acknowledged. And, so I like to take a bit of a different approach
Yeah.
to
This is
how I
beautiful.
work with it.
Absolutely. This is really great. I know we are at the end of our time, but I did want to ask you a couple of questions. And the first one has to do personally in your journey right now. What would you say
Yep.
the biggest thing that you are learning right now?
Okay, so I am rebellious by nature. In high school, I got kicked out of class and, they were really glad when I left school. I've learned to harness that rebellious side of me because the golden side of rebelliousness is actually creativity and innovation. And where I'm at right now in my business is really allowing me to have a level of discernment around what is actually good for me. Especially over the last few weeks, I'm stepping off and away from like the launch cycle of launching my program. I'm moving that to Evergreen. I'm going back out into speaking, setting some stuff up with that now. I'm actually doing the things now that I want to do, and I'm looking at the formulas that everyone has and going, I like that bit and I like that bit. Now, some people would call it business suicide. I call it reinventing and creating a life that I love. So that's the biggest thing, because now I'm embodying these values even more every day. And the imposter voice, it's a quiet little voice that pops up every now and then, but I give her the love and I let her go. So big changes for me is moving more over to LinkedIn. So by next year, I'll be my strategy will be more LinkedIn focused than Facebook. I will be getting events organised and set up, and I'll be doing more speaking. The modelling and acting stuff is to get me stage and television ready, because I have some big goals for next year.
Cool. That one's actually really exciting.
Building up my one-on-one client list again, because I love one-on-one. I know there's this big thing, leverage your time, run big group programs, set up membership sites, do all of that, have 50 people paying you $200 a month or whatever. That doesn't feed my soul. And it's why I shut down my Facebook group. It's like, I'm just doing what I love now, and it'll work because
Yeah, and
it
I
has
think it's
all of my
absolutely
belief and
beautiful.
energy behind it.
Right. Yes. Fantastic. Well, one last question before I let you go is, what would you like, if whomever is listening to this interview right now, because I know I definitely would like to share it with my audience, and I think we talked about you sharing it. So women who are working out from this interview, if they would learn one thing, what would it be? What would you like for them
Only
to take
one.
away from this?
All
I know,
right.
right? I like hard questions.
Okay, so look, I've already said how, when you learn to love and work with your imposter voice, life becomes a lot easier there. What I would really love every woman to do is to take a moment and think back to the 10 shadow values: attention, rebelliousness, belonging, control, sexuality, superiority, validation, money, authority, and ambition. And even if you just pick one of those, the one that really stands out for you, and just set your goals and go, by setting this goal, how can I create or achieve more, whatever the shadow value is in my life? So by setting this goal to do a daily Facebook Live, how will that allow me to receive more attention? By breaking this business rule and trusting my intuition, how will this feed my rebelliousness shadow value? That kind of stuff. Because when you step back into who you truly are and give yourself permission to remove the fear, shame, guilt, and judgment around all of these things, you'll feel amazing. Life will become fearless and enjoyable. You'll find your manifesting will really start to light up even more. And you'll wake up inspired. You won't need external motivation anymore. You'll just be inspired to take action. I wake up, I'm up at 6:30, 7 o'clock every morning now, whereas last year...
Yeah, I saw that. You texted me at this time. I was like, she's
lucky to
awake
get me out of bed at 9:30. Last year, I think I was really battling depression again with not acknowledging it. But life becomes inspired. It just becomes inspired. It becomes beautiful. Everything I do now has an element of fun and play. And I just want everyone to feel like this.
Absolutely. And another thing that strikes me about you, Trudy, is that you don't have a fear of change, right? Change is something that you embrace. You said, if it feels right to change, I'm going to follow that inside, right? And take that inspired action.
I walked away from a lot last year to get to this point, and it was totally worth it. And, maybe I, burnt some bridges, and, some relationships didn't end the way that I wanted them to. And I will always feel sad for that. But life moves on, and you do the best that you can in the moment, and it's all you can do.
Absolutely.
So you've got to stop beating yourself up about the past and what happened, and just keep rewriting your now, and give yourself permission. Yes. You are allowed whatever it is that you want. I have this Post-it note on my desk. I'm allowed. Every day I see this, I'm allowed. And so are you.
Good. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Trudy. This was absolutely beautiful.
Oh, you're welcome.
Of course, we want to know where we can learn more about you. So where could people find you? Is there a website? Is there a link or resource that you can send us to? I'm not sure what Miriam said about sharing, information, but I'm pretty sure you can post the link to your website.
I'm in the process of rebranding fully into Global Sparkles. I've got some big visions for where I want to go with my business. So I've got a Facebook page, Global Sparkles. You can just add me. I talk about my business on my personal profile as well. So I've got websites under Trudy Pavlovsky or Global Sparkles.
Fantastic. Send me a link or anywhere where I can send people to if they want to learn more about you and your work. And this way it'll be easy for them to connect with you.
Yeah. If Miriam says it's cool, I can just post some links in the comments.
Fantastic. I don't think it's a big deal.
I think
it's just sharing our information.
Oh, Bettina, sorry, I just saw your comment. Look, reach out, Bettina, because I'm in week 2 of the course. We might be able to squeeze you in if you want to join this. This is the final live round of Embrace. The book is coming next year. And but there's also coaching and stuff. So happy to have a conversation about how I can be of service.
Yeah, thank you so much for reading those comments because I cannot see them.
No, that's all right. They're popping up on my screen.
I appreciate you very much. It's been such a pleasure.
No worries.
Thank you so much, and we'll keep in touch.
Thanks, ladies. Bye.
Bye, Trudy.